Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we're checking out the new legendary German battle cruiser Schleifen. Alright, now we got Celiacs on there, full secondary build, of course. There's the ship and secondaries up the wazoo on that one, of course. There's the armor scheme. Alright, so we know what we're working with in terms of the build. Secondaries, secondaries, secondaries. Alright, that's the only reason you're going to want to play this thing. And it excels quite well at it. Let's go through the basics. All right, so we got a game on Shatter, capture the base mode. The opening 3 or 4 minutes are kind of standoffish. In fact, we're just trying to basically counter a Pommern that's going to be on the other side of an island from us. But once that is opened up, you're going to see this thing in action. It's going to be capable of pumping out huge amounts of damage in short amount of time. All right, that's kind of the idea with these German battle cruisers. Usually going into the match, my philosophy with these things is they're here for a good time, not a long time. If you can do 150,000 damage in the first 5 minutes of the match, usually that's a big enough dent in the enemy to hopefully allow your teammates to finish off the game. Now, that's not a guarantee, as you guys all know, if you played this game for more than 5 minutes. But nevertheless, that's kind of my approach. Now, this game, we actually will go the full distance, and we will be doing some severe harm to the enemy as it progresses. So let's start getting into the stats. First, the main battery. We got 4 turrets, 2 guns per, 420 calibers each, with a 27-second reload, 30-second traverse. That's pretty good. All right, we got some hard-hitting guns here, and the reload's not bad for a set of guns like that. Torpedoes, we should also mention. Usually the German torpedoes, cruisers, battleships, doesn't really matter. And this, before I get back into that, I want to point this gearing out. Just see where he came through on the map. He gets rocked here, and I'm sure his team's really pissed off at him. But it is a very easy mistake to make. You got to learn on this map that the approach that it looks enticing to go through that set of islands, just how you spawn and how you think you're arrayed. But usually when you come through that gap there, you are more or less immediately spotted, and often the enemy, in this case the blue team, will have a lot of ships close range that can absolutely rock you. So we used our secondary reload mod, or whatever you want to call it, thing, just to make sure that we got them off there, but the team did an awesome job taking them out. So be very careful on that. I usually like to deploy more or less vertically as a destroyer. But in this map, you have to be very, very careful, especially in that western gap, because you do emerge basically spotted and close quarters against these guys. So here's where we're going to post up here. We're going to wait for plays to develop, and we'll see how the game progresses after that. But getting back into the torpedoes here, 8 kilometers. Usually the German cruisers, battleships are going to see 6-kilometer torps. Now these are slow torpedoes, 5.4 or 54 knots, I want to say. I didn't write that down, but they're relatively slow. But usually with these German the battle cruisers and the German battleships that have torpedoes, usually that's going to be kind of okay, we're slugging it out, point blank range. Oh, here's some torps coming your way here to kind of, end the fight, I guess. And we'll see that in action here. We're actually going to be going for a double strike as the game progresses here. We'll see if we can get it. But the torpedoes do have a couple more kilometers range, a little bit more reach. Okay, so you can get those deployed a little bit easier. So that's an advantage there. But what we really want to be getting into secondaries, right? Now, we saw yesterday with the Atlantico, those secondaries were really high caliber. I can't recall, but they were in the 200s. These are the same secondaries in terms of caliber as we see on the Bismarck and the other German secondary ships. We got the 105s and the 150s. Now the 105 caliber guns, we have 24 of them, 12 per side. Compare that to the Bismarck, kind of the standard bearer, 16. Okay, so we actually have 50% more of the small caliber guns on the Schleifen. And the 150s, we have 16 on this one and 12 on the Bismarck. So that's a 33% boost there. And you can see there we're angled, we're taking some damage if he gets shot in the superstructure there. That's the Friedrich I think we're squared off on. He's content to sit there and kind of shoot into me, and I'm not really doing much here, admittedly. Kind of hoping that the Pommern's going to commit to one gap or the other so we can torp him. going to take a shot on the Alaska here, but it looks like it's going to be blocked, both by that little white triangle on the screen that's suggesting that, but even the shots that are discharged. I was hoping we could squeeze 1 or 2 guns off because we're not really shooting there, so this is dead space. We're not being productive. So that's what's happening in the game. Again, slower start, but strap yourselves in. It's going to get wild here. The range on the Secondaries, 12.6. Currently the longest reaching Secondaries on my Navy, certainly. Now 11.8 on my identical Bismarck build, so we do have nearly a full extra kilometer. Now this is 2 tiers up, of course, but in terms of reach and in terms of ships that are currently in the game, the Secondaries have the furthest reach on the Schleifen, which is important because the idea with these things is we're going to want to be doing main gun damage and augmenting it with passive kind of consistent secondary damage. And you can see here, of course, we can outdistance the Friedrich at this point in time when he begins to be subjected to my secondaries. It behooves him to move forward, and he will eventually push forward a little bit, and we'll start exchanging. You can see there the secondaries look like they're going off. But we had the early advantage. If I was able to kind of control the distance game a little bit more, we could actually just sit here and trade main gun shots and then not trade secondaries. We could just inflict the secondary hits on him and then get the passive damage. All right, so you can see the blue team, even though we're doing pretty well in ship count and we're dominating the west, that's because we've deployed our entire team's resources here. Of course, going into that, we were keeping a close eye on the progress in the east, because if they're unimpeded over there, of course, they're going to make it into the base, and they do so here relatively easy. So we're going to keep pinging the base, and we're going to, of course, go back to commit to defend. The final stats we want to talk about, getting back to the secondaries, it is a little bit longer of a reload. We got 2.4 seconds on the small calibers, 5.4 on the bigger ones, compared to 2.3 on the smaller and 5.1 on the bigger ones on the Bismarck. Okay, so that's a little bit of a balancing factor due to the fact that we get a lot more guns, a lot more reach, but just keep that in mind. It'll affect the damage per minute calculations a little bit. Finally, AA stats, it's a 92 rating. I know that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. Speed, very nice, 34.1, very fast for what's rated as a battleship. 970 turn radius, that's a little onerous. That's a big turn radius. And the rudder shift, 16.1 on my build. All right, so we got some torpedoes coming in here. I'm hoping that this battleship to the right of me doesn't cause these guys to both, or cause the destroyer over here to torpedo both at the same time, get a double strike. At this point in time, I'm thinking the destroyer is by that smoke cloud. I thought we were visually being spotted. We're actually getting proxy spotted by whatever battleship there. He just pops up on the screen there, Burgoyne. We don't have the torpedoes on the left currently available. We will take a shot there. Need to select this Shima. We need to make sure, and unfortunate launch for him. I don't know how we juked him that hard, or maybe he was aiming at the guy behind me as we were merging. Whatever the case may be, I mean, that's crippling damage, and you can see how quickly we're able to take him out. All right, so now we're in a situation where we're squaring off against a nearly full health Musashi, and we got the Burgoyne on the right-hand side of the screen. At this point, I'm trying to say to myself, okay, can we get one of these before we die? That would be ideal. Check the reload on the left. It's about 15 seconds left, or 12 seconds, whatever it was. Get the launch off on the right side. Hopefully we'll hit them. Maybe stick a flood, maybe get some damage or whatever. And Musashi, I'm hoping he turns a little bit. We can slam the shots through the cheek there, but he shuts down that. I'm thinking, now let's slam on the brakes. Let's see if we can get a ram off on here. No, he doesn't comply. He's trying to stay alive. First torpedo launch, too close. They do not arm. The torps on the right do hit a few, but the follow-up torps on the Musashi, as he turns away, he increases his distance just enough for those torpedoes to have the space to arm. And now we're starting to open up this fight here, and you can see how quickly the damage, we went from 6,000 damage just a couple minutes ago, and the Musashi takes a vicious shot there as he turns a little bit, double citadel there, and the Witherer added to the accolade. So 180,000 damage in the span of, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it was. Vicious, vicious, vicious. If you can get this thing in position to be productive throughout the course of the match, I mean, it's a high damage game, yes, but compared to what this thing is capable of on paper, I mean, we're going to start seeing some monster games out of this. So the balancing factor with the Schleifen, of course, is it's easier to kill than some of the battleships at the higher tiers, which are more heavily armored, of course. But Again, if you can get this thing going where the secondaries are going off one side, maybe even both sides, you're getting main gun damage. And keep in mind, we had about the first third of the game where we really didn't have the opportunity to shoot much, just due to the ineffective position. I would argue I was effective in the fact that I was shutting down the Pommern and the assault into the mid. But in terms of actually producing damage, being productive in that regard, it was a quiet start. So definitely a dangerous ship. You're going to want to kill it if possible. If you see it, go ahead and shoot it. It's one of those ships that if you let it do its thing, it could certainly cause you some major problems. The downside with this thing is, and this is a newer trend with the legendary tier and the bureau, we first saw it with the carriers, and now this one I believe is the next one. You either have to get 30 million credits, which are in very short supply with all these tier 8s coming, or 5,000 doubloons. I actually had some spare doubloons laying around. I opted to use those. I wasn't initially going to support the project, but I've just been enjoying playing the ship so much. And I figured, okay, well, what are we going to put these doubloons on anyways? Might as well use them since we got them. But keep in mind, I have been an advocate for making the higher tier ships a little bit less accessible to the newest of new players. Don't take offense if you're brand new to the game. This game is tough to learn, and those of us that have been playing a long time would like a refuge for people that have a little bit more experience. But another onerous credit crunch, I don't know if that's necessarily the way to do it or not. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Schleifen for you guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.